The snow-trapped wind screamed like a monster in the frozen forest. Snow fell heavy from the black sky. Under a broken tree, a man named Ethan lay in the deep snow. His lips were blue, and his eyes half closed. He had come to this planet to study its mountains, but now he was too weak to move. Every breath hurt his chest. His hands could not feel his own skin. He knew he would die soon. When he closed his eyes, he thought of the sun on earth, of his sister's laugh, and of warm food he would never taste again. A sudden growl broke the quiet. Ethan's eyes opened slowly. Blurry shadows moved behind the trees. Red eyes blinked in the dark. The hunter beasts had smelled him. They circled closer, hungry for easy meat. Ethan could not even lift his arm to fight. Snow crunched under heavy paws. A big beast, bigger than a horse, showed sharp white teeth. It took slow steps toward Ethan's head. Ethan's heartbeat slowed. He was too cold to fear death. Then, without warning, a bigger shadow fell from above. A loud roar shook the air. The beast yelped, but to lead a claw like a knife cut deep into its neck. Blood splashed on Ethan's frozen face. He was too weak to wipe it away. In the storm light, Ethan saw her, tall and wild, skin pale like the moon, long black hair flying in the wind. Her eyes glowed blue in the dark. Her arms and legs were strong and covered in strange scars. She was not human. She was something else, something fierce. Another beast jumped at her, but she caught it with both hands. Her claws sank into its skull. She tossed the dead body away like trash. More growls came from the trees, but the beasts did not dare to attack her again. They vanished into the snow, tails low, fearing her power. The girl stood over Ethan. Snow stuck to her hair and shoulders. Steam rose from her mouth with every breath. She crouched low and sniffed his face. Ethan's eyes locked with hers. He saw no hate, no hunger, just wild curiosity. She touched his chest lightly with her claw. When he did not move, she made a small sound in her throat, almost like a worried hum. She sniffed again, then turned her head and looked at the dark trees. Ethan tried to whisper, "Please, help," but his lips could not make full words. His body shook harder now, as if trying one last time to stay alive. The alien girl bared her sharp teeth at the forest, warning any hidden eyes to stay away. Then she did something that shocked Ethan even more. She bent down and lifted him into her arms. Like a child. Her arms were strong, but gentle. His frozen cheek pressed against her warm neck. He smelled wild plants and old blood on her skin, but also a strange sweetness like forest flowers. The girl moved fast through the snow. She ran like a wolf, silent and quick, her feet barely touching the ground. Snow and tree branches hit her face, but she did not stop or flinch. Her hair flew back and covered Ethan's numb face like a warm blanket. Inside his mind, Ethan fought sleep. If he slept now, he knew he would never wake up again. He forced his eyes open and saw the world bouncing in soft shadows and white snow. The girl slowed near a hidden cave mouth under a cliff. Smoke floated from it, warm and sweet. She pushed inside, ducking her head. The cave walls shone with firelight. Animal skins covered the floor. Bones of old meals lay near the walls. She placed Ethan gently on a bed of dry furs. Then she pulled another thick fur over him, tucking it around his frozen legs. She moved to the fire, picked up a burning stick, and brought it closer to his face. The sudden heat hurt, but also woke him more. The girl crouched next to him, watching him with her shining eyes. When he coughed, she made that humming sound again, soft and low, like she wanted to calm him. She did not speak. Maybe she could not speak his words. Ethan's shaking slowed a little. He could feel his fingers now, feel the wet fur around him, feel the strange safety in this monstrous cave. The girl turned her head and sniffed the cave air. Outside, the wind howled, but could not touch them here. She moved closer, curled up beside him like a wolf beside her pack. Her long hair touched his face again. Her warmth kept the deadly cold away. Ethan tried to understand, why did she save him? What was she planning to do with him? He wanted to ask so many things, but sleep dragged him away at last. Before his eyes closed, he heard her low hum again, and he knew one thing deep in his weak heart. She was not a monster to fear. She was his only hope in this cold death trap. Her. Hidden then, when Ethan woke up, he did not know where he was. At first, he thought he was back on Earth, under warm blankets in his small room. But when he opened his eyes fully, he saw rough stone walls, dancing firelight, and a low ceiling dripping with melted snow. He tried to move, but his body ached all over. His hand touched the furs covering him, thick animal skins, soft but heavy. The smell of smoke and wild animal fur filled his nose. Then he heard a low growl. He turned his head slowly and saw her. She was sitting by the cave entrance, half in shadow, half in firelight. Her sharp eyes locked on him, watching every breath he took. In the daylight, she looked even more dangerous, her shoulders wide, her arms strong like iron, her skin covered with strange blue patterns that looked almost alive in the fire's glow. When Ethan moved again, she made a deeper growl. He froze. She stood up and walked to him slowly. Her clawed hand touched his forehead, then his chest. She seemed to check if he was still alive. Her cold claws made his skin jump, but she did not hurt him. "Thank you," Ethan whispered with a dry throat. She did not answer with words. She tilted her head, her long black hair sliding over her face. Then she turned, walked to a dark corner, and came back holding something heavy. It was fresh meat, raw, red, dripping blood on the stone floor. She dropped it near his bed and pushed it closer to his face with one clawed finger. Ethan's stomach twisted. He was so hungry, but the raw meat made him want to vomit. He pushed it away weakly. The girl snarled low, showing her sharp teeth, but did not attack. Instead, she grabbed a piece, bit into it, and chewed slowly while staring at him. He understood. This was how she ate, raw and fresh. She wanted him to eat too, like her. "No, no, I can't," he whispered, shaking his head. The alien girl narrowed her eyes, confused or maybe annoyed. Then she leaned close, sniffed his face again, and made that soft humming sound she did the first night. She touched his throat with her claw gently, as if trying to feel if he could swallow at all. Then she stood up and disappeared into the back of the cave. Ethan heard water dripping and something like small stones hitting metal. She came back with a strange bowl made from a big skull. Inside was warm liquid that smelled like boiled roots and herbs. She lifted his head with one arm and pressed the bowl to his lips. Ethan tasted bitter, earthy soup, but forced himself to swallow. Each sip burned down his throat, but woke his body. She watched him drink every drop, then pulled the skull bowl away and licked the rim clean like an animal. Her eyes flicked to the cave entrance, then back to him. Outside, the wind howled, but inside the cave, there was a deep silence. Only the crackle of fire and their breathing filled the space. Ethan tried to sit up more, ignoring the pain in his ribs. He looked at her, this wild alien girl who had saved him twice now. He wanted to talk, ask her name, ask where he was, ask why she cared at all. "Who are you?" he asked softly. She did not answer. Instead, she touched her chest with her clawed hand, then pointed at him. Her finger tapped his forehead, then her own chest. Did she mean mine? Did she see him as her catch, her pet, or her treasure? The thought made Ethan's skin crawl and warm at the same time. Suddenly, a loud howl echoed from the snowy forest outside. The alien girl's eyes turned sharp again. She grabbed a heavy bone club from the cave wall and moved to the entrance. Her body blocked the cold air from hitting Ethan. She waited, still as a statue, listening. Her back muscles tensed under her. Pale skin. Then, from the darkness outside, soft footsteps crunched closer. Ethan's heart raced. He could not fight, not in this condition. He watched her, his only hope, ready to kill or die for him. A shape appeared at the cave mouth, small, furry, with yellow eyes. It was not another beast, but a large snow hare. The alien girl relaxed slightly. With a sudden jump, she caught it in her hand before it could run. She bit its neck, killing it instantly. She brought the fresh kill to Ethan's bed, dropped it at his feet, and pushed it closer again. Her message was clear. She would hunt for him, feed him, and guard him, whether he liked it or not. He belonged to her now. Ethan lay back down, the warm firelight flickering in his tired eyes. Outside, the endless snow waited to swallow him. Inside, the fierce alien girl sat down beside him, chewing her fresh kill slowly. He realized with a chill that the forest was not his prison. This cave was, and she was the only thing keeping him alive, but also the only thing stopping him from leaving. Somewhere deep inside, Ethan wondered, did he want to escape anymore? The first danger days passed inside the hidden cave, while the storm outside never rested. Every morning, Ethan woke up wrapped in warmth he didn't expect to find in this icy world. The alien girl always lay close, her back pressed to his chest, or her arm across his side like a guard's chain. When he opened his eyes, he would find her watching him with those sharp blue eyes, unblinking. studying his every move as if waiting for him to break. Ethan learned quickly she did not like loud voices, sudden moves, or him touching her weapons. But when he spoke softly, she listened. When he pointed at things, she sometimes copied his words in her deep growly voice. She tried to say his name once. It came out like E-THA-NN, low and rumbling from her throat. He laughed weakly, and for the first time, her face showed something. New curiosity mixed with a small flicker of pride. Inside the cave, life was a simple dance. She hunted, he healed. He cleaned wounds on her arms where beasts had clawed her. Using torn cloth from his coat and warm water she brought in a skull bowl, she watched him closely each time, claws ready in case he hurt her by accident. One night, while she was out hunting, Ethan sat near the fire, whispering to himself. He planned to find a way home, back to his crashed ship hidden somewhere under the deep snow. He knew he could not stay her pet forever. He needed freedom even if his heart fought him on that thought. Then he heard a sound that made his blood freeze. A low snarl, not hers, but many. Footsteps padded closer to the cave mouth. Ethan grabbed a burning stick from the fire. He forced his weak legs to stand. Dark shapes moved outside the entrance. Yellow eyes blinked back at him. At least 5 big snow beasts sniffed the cave air. They had smelled his human blood again. Ethan stepped backward until his back hit the cave wall. The burning stick shook in his trembling hand. He wanted to shout for her, but his throat felt too tight. The first beast stepped into the firelight, white fur stained with old blood, mouth dripping saliva. Eyes locked on Ethan like he was fresh meat on legs. It growled deep, calling the others closer. Claws scratched stone as they crept in. Ethan raised the stick, praying the fire would scare them. But the beasts were too hungry now. They inched closer, teeth bared. A second beast lunged. Ethan swung the stick with all his strength. The fire brushed the beast's fur, and it leaped back, hissing. But the others kept coming, smarter, spreading out to trap him against the wall. Ethan's breath rattled in his chest. He knew he would not last long. His legs trembled, threatening to give up again. Then a roar like thunder cracked the air. The beast froze mid-step. Ethan's heart jumped in his throat. She was back. The alien girl dropped her kill, a giant snow stag at the cave mouth. Her eyes burned blue fire as she stepped in. Her chest rose and fell, steam puffing from her mouth. The beast backed away, whining softly, tails low. She stalked forward, slow and deliberate, placing herself between Ethan and the hungry pack. Her claws spread wide, the sharp tips clicking on stone. One foolish beast lunged anyway. She caught in midair by the throat and slammed it so hard the cave walls shook. Bones cracked. She let the dead body drop and roared again. The other beasts turned and ran, slipping and yelping into the dark forest, scared by her power and her rage. She turned back to Ethan. Her breath came in fast bursts. Fresh blood dripped from her claws. She sniffed him quickly, grabbed his arms roughly, checking if he was bitten or scratched. When she found no wounds, she pushed him gently back to the furs by the fire and made him sit. Then she paced the cave like a wild thing, claws tapping the stone floor, growling at shadows as if daring more danger to come. Ethan sat there, heart racing, staring at the dead beast near the wall. She had killed it so easily, like swatting a fly. She was more than a protector, she was a storm in flesh. When she finally stopped pacing, she knelt beside him. Without warning, she leaned close, pressing her forehead to his. Her hot breath touched his cold cheeks. Her claws rested on his shoulders, but did not dig in. In that silent moment, Ethan understood she was angry not because of the beasts, but because she had not been there when he needed her most. Slowly, carefully, she growled one word she had learned: safe. Her voice cracked the air like a promise and a threat. Then she pulled back, grabbed the dead beast's body, and dragged it outside, leaving a trail of blood behind her. Ethan's hands shook as he stared at the cave entrance. He was her treasure now, but treasures come with a price, and out there in the snow, he knew more dangers were hunting both of them. Trust in the cold snow fell heavier each day, burying the cave under a thick white blanket. Deep inside, the fire burned day and night, but the cold always found a way in, even wrapped in furs. Ethan's fingers sometimes turned pale, yet every time he shivered, she moved closer. Her body heat pushed the cold back like a shield. The fierce alien girl, he still had no name for her, watched the cave entrance without blinking. Sometimes she slept, but always with one eye half open. Ethan wondered if she had ever known peace, if she had ever laid her head down without fear of claws, teeth, and death at the door. One morning, He woke to find her wounded. Fresh cuts marked her left shoulder and ribs. Dry blood cracked on her pale skin. He tried to touch the wounds, but she slapped his hand away, growling low, warning him to keep his soft human fingers off her warrior flesh, but Ethan did not listen. When she fell asleep beside him, exhausted from hunting, he crawled closer. With water warmed by the fire and a strip of cloth torn from his old jacket, he cleaned her cuts. She growled even in sleep, but did not wake. He saw scars beneath fresh wounds, old battles hidden under her perfect warrior skin. When she woke and saw the clean bandages, she sniffed them, then him, and for the first time, she did not snarl or bare her teeth. Instead, she sat next to him, staring with her glowing blue eyes as if trying to understand this strange human kindness. Days passed like this. She hunted, he tended her wounds. He taught her simple words: fire, sleep, safe. She listened, repeating them in her deep broken voice. One night, he found her beside the fire, whispering Eden to herself, claws tapping the stone floor softly. She didn't know he was awake, watching her from under the furs. For a moment, she looked like a lonely child repeating the name of her only warmth in this cruel world. But peace never lasted long. Ethan first heard them while she was out hunting. A strange voice drifted through the trees, deep, rough, and clearly not an animal. He crawled to the cave entrance, pushing aside a fur curtain. In the snowy dusk, he saw faint light torches moving between dark trees. He squinted. Men, armored, their helmets shone like dull steel. One man held a leash that dragged a huge, half-starved beast behind him. Another man laughed, kicking snow at the beast's ribs. Ethan's blood turned cold. Slavers, bounty hunters, or worse, those who came for her. He backed away from the entrance, heart pounding so hard he thought they might hear it. She had told him with growls and simple signs that others wanted her. They feared her power, but wanted it chained. He grabbed the bone club she usually left near the fire. It felt heavy and useless in his shaking hands, but he had to try. He couldn't let them find her here. The footsteps came closer. Laughter echoed through the trees. Then, like a ghost, she appeared behind him. She dropped a fresh kill of snow. Deer at his feet, her eyes flicked from his pale face to the torchlights flickering outside. She sniffed the cold wind, then bared her teeth in silent rage. The soft humming sound she often made for him turned into a low growl that rumbled through her chest. Ethan grabbed her arm, shaking his head, whispering, "Too many. Hide, please." But she pulled her arm free and pushed him back to the far wall. Like he was a helpless cub, she stalked to the entrance, claws out, shoulders rising and falling as if each breath built a storm inside her. The first man stepped into view, torch held high. His eyes widened at the sight of her. There she is, the ghost queen. He barked at the others. Nets, don't kill her alive. Alive. Nets flew through the air. Steel cables clinked like chains of death. She ducked, rolled, and sprang forward. Her roar echoed so loud the cave trembled. One man fell back screaming as she tore through the nets like paper. Claws ripped armor. Teeth sank into flesh. Ethan hid in the shadows, fists tight around the bone club, watching her become a nightmare no man could tame. She moved like snow wine, silent and thunderous, everywhere at once. Blood sprayed the white snow red. Steel swords clanged against stone claws. But then, a net caught her leg, another tangled her arm. 3 men pulled hard, yelling in a strange alien tongue. She thrashed, but more nets flew. The starved beast lunged and bit her shoulder, chains rattling as his master whipped it forward. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. She was trapped, for the first time helpless under the weight of chains and biting teeth. Her eyes met Ethan's, across the cave burning with rage, but behind it, a small flash of fear. He knew she had fought for him, killed for him, warmed him when the cold tried to claim his bones. Now he had to fight for her. Ethan gripped the bone club so tight his knuckles turned white. He stepped out of the shadows, heart a drum in his ears. He would not run, not this time, not when his only guardian, his fierce snow queen, needed him most. Hunted there inside the cave turned sharp with the smell of blood, sweat, and fear. Ethan's breath clouded in front of him as he gripped the heavy bone club. The slavers laughed at first when they saw him, a skinny, weak human standing alone, while their chains held down the alien girl like a captured beast. One man pointed at him with a cruel smile. "Kill the human. He's worthless. The queen is all we want." But the girl's eyes burning blue, furious and desperate, locked on Ethan. Even pinned under the chains and the biting beast, She did not cry for help, but her gaze begged him, fight, run. Live. Something in Ethan's chest snapped free. He stepped forward before fear could stop him, with a roar of his own more human than hers, but fierce enough. The bone club smashed against the first slaver's helmet. Mail rang like a bell, and the man dropped to his knees, groaning. The others turned, shocked. One swung a short sword at Ethan's ribs. Ethan jumped back, felt the blade nick his coat, but pain barely registered. Adrenaline drowned everything but the need to stand between them and her. The starved beast lunged at him now, jaws wide. Ethan ducked low, swung the club with all his strength. Bone met bone, a sickening cracking, and the beast howled in pain. Pulling its chain tight and yanking its handler off his feet, the alien girl used that moment. She roared through her fangs and snapped the chains binding her arm. Steel links flew, like broken glass. She bit into the net on her leg and ripped it apart with claws and teeth. Ignoring her bleeding shoulder, the cave filled with chaos. Torch flames shook wildly. Shadows danced on blood-splattered walls. One slaver grabbed Ethan from behind, choking him with an iron arm around his throat. Stars filled his vision. The man hissed in his ear, "Stupid human, she is our prize. Not yours." But a new roar, deeper than any before, shattered the cave's roof of silence. The alien girl, now half free and half mad with fury, lunged straight at the man holding Ethan. Her claws sliced his back open like paper. Warm blood sprayed Ethan's neck as the man fell dead at his feet. She stood over Ethan, panting, chains dragging from her wrists like broken snake skins. Her chest rose and fell fast, steam pouring from her mouth. Behind her, the last two slavers hesitated. One dropped his weapon and ran for the forest. The other, bolder, or more foolish, raised a blaster gun stolen from another world. He aimed at her head. Ethan didn't think his body moved before his mind could. He threw himself at the man, tackling him hard. The blaster fired once, the blue bolt burning the cave wall inches from her face. The alien girl pounced before the man could fire again. Her claws sank into his chest, tearing armor and flesh. The blaster fell with a dull thud on the cold stone. Silence returned, broken only by her ragged breathing and Ethan's gasp for air. She turned to him slowly, eyes still wild, blood dripping from her claws for a heartbeat. Ethan wondered if she would kill him too, now that the threat was gone. But instead, she knelt down, pressed her forehead to his, and whispered with effort, "Safe B-THA-NN, safe." Outside the cave, the forest echoed with distant shouts, more voices, more hunters searching for their lost prize. They both heard it. They both knew they could not stay here anymore. She stood, grabbed the thickest furs and wrapped them around Ethan's shoulders. Then she dragged him to the back of the cave, where a small crack led to an old tunnel. One she must have used before, a secret way out if ever trapped. She picked up the drop blaster, sniffed it, then handed it to Ethan, pushing his hand around the handle until he gripped it tight. "Run," Ethan whispered, throat dry. She nodded once, fierce eyes softening for him alone. Then she pushed him into the narrow tunnel and crawled behind him, blocking any threat that might follow from the cave mouth. Behind them, the winter forest called with its deadly cold, but together, hunted and wounded, man and alien girl pushed deeper into the hidden paths under the snow, choosing freedom over chains, trust over fear. In that darkness, with only her breath and warmth so close, Ethan knew he was not her prisoner anymore. He was her equal, her companion, maybe even something more the snow could never bury again. The stand tunnel behind the cave was tight, dark, and smelled of wet earth and old bones. Ethan crawled first, clutching the stolen blaster with trembling hands. Every stone cut his palms. Every icy drip on his neck reminded him how fragile his life still was. Behind him, he could hear her, his fierce alien girl, moving like a silent predator, claws scraping stone, soft growls vibrating through the narrow walls. The tunnel bent and twisted, leading them deeper under the frozen ground. Finally, the earth cracked open to a hidden exit, a small cave mouth hidden behind thick bushes and fallen snow. Cold air slapped Ethan's face as he crawled out, gasping for breath. Half blinded by the white light of dawn, she emerged after him, eyes darting left and right, sniffing the air like a wolf. Her skin glowed faintly under the pale sun, scars and fresh wounds painting her body with proof of survival. She was not afraid. She never was. But Ethan could see something new in her eyes. Anger turned into something sharper. Decision. Behind them, faint voices rose through the forest, The slavers had found the main cave empty. Now they were spreading out, dogs and beasts barking in the cold, torches moving like fireflies among the trees. Ethan's lungs burned from the icy wind. "We have to run," he rasped Dot, but she shook her head slowly. She stood tall in the snow, hair whipping around her face. She sniffed the wind again, then turned her eyes on him to icy flames locked on his fear. She touched her chest, then pointed at the ground. "Here, stand here, fight here." Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. He wanted to run, but she trusted him enough to stand beside him. How could he betray that? She moved quickly, pulling him toward a small clearing surrounded by thick trees and tall rocks. A natural trap. Any slaver entering would have to come through a narrow path, easy to control, easy to defend. She pushed Ethan behind a big fallen log, then crouched in the snow just ahead of him, claws ready, shoulders tense. Her breath rose like smoke in the freezing air. She turned her head once, eyes locking on his. "Trust me, stay hidden. Protect yourself." Ethan gripped the blaster tight, fingers numb but ready. He whispered to himself, "You saved me, now I'll save you." The first slaver came alone, pushing through the trees, muttering curses about the snow. He didn't see her at first. She was just another shadow in the white world. But when he stepped close, her roar exploded through the clearing. She lunged, claws flashing. The man's scream ended under her claws. His blood painted the snow dark red. More footsteps, shouts. The hunters poured in, weapons drawn, dogs barking madly. The clearing turned into a storm of roars, barks, and human screams. Ethan stayed low, firing the blaster. When he saw shadows move close, the recoil nearly broke his wrist. But the bright blue bolt burned holes through armor. Once, a slaver tried to crawl behind the log. Ethan fired point blank, and the man fell back, smoke rising from his chest. Through the chaos, Ethan saw her fight like no living thing he'd ever known. Claws tore flesh, teeth snapped bone. She moved so fast she was a blur. One moment on the ground, the next on a man's back, tearing at his throat. A net flew toward her. She spun midair, slicing it to ribbons before it touched her skin. A hunter aimed a gun at her back. Ethan yelled and fired first. The bolt hit the man's shoulder, dropping him screaming into the snow. She heard his shout, turned to look at him just once. In that glance, so quick but burning, Ethan saw pride. She trusted him to guard her back now, just as she guarded his. Blood soaked the snow. Bodies lay half buried in red drifts. The dogs turned and fled into the forest when she roared at them, tails tucked between their legs. The last slaver dropped to his knees, begging in a strange alien tongue, eyes wide with terror at the monster before him. She stepped close, claws dripping. She looked down at him, then back at Ethan. She tilted her head, asking without words, "Spare or kill?" Ethan stepped over the fallen log, his boots crunching in the stained snow. His finger hovered over the blaster trigger. He looked at the man, saw fear, cowardice, greed. "No more threat, no more chain." Double quotes. "Go," Ethan said quietly. "Run. Tell the others. She is free, and I'm not yours to hunt." The man scrambled to his feet and vanished into the trees, tripping over roots and dead branches. The clearing fell silent except for the girl's heavy breath and Ethan's pounding heart. Snowflakes drifted down, covering blood and footprints. Slowly, as if nature itself wished to hide the violence, she turned to him, stepping close. She touched his cheek gently, claws careful not to cut his skin. Then she leaned in, pressed her forehead to his, and whispered the word she had learned so painfully, "Safe." Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the truth of it. Yes, they were safe for now. But he also knew the snow would not stop hunting them. Freedom needed more than claws and blood. It needed a plan, a future. And with her by his side, he was ready to stand, to fight, to live no matter what hunted them next. Guarded like treasure, the snowstorm ended 2 days later, but the cold never left. Its claws scratched at the forest night after night. But inside a new shelter deep in the mountain roots, Ethan and his alien guardian breathed warmth back into each other's bones. After the last fight, they did not speak for a long time. He had no words for what they had done, what they had become. She did not need words to know what he felt. In every glance, every small touch when she checked his wounds, there was a silent truth between them. They were not master and slave, not hunter and prey. They were each other's only home in a world of snow and teeth. She built this new den herself, dragging stones and tree trunks to block the mouth of a hidden cave far from where the slavers had first found them. Ethan helped where he could, binding branches with rope from old traps, covering the roof with animal skin she brought from her hunts. Sometimes, when he thought she slept, he watched her curled beside him, claws soft against his chest, face peaceful for the first time since he met her. He wondered what she had been before the chains, before the hunters. Was she born wild, or did they make her this way? One morning, he woke to find her gone. Fresh snow covered her footprints, but he knew she would not abandon him. Still, fear scratched his thoughts until the low growl of her return eased it. She carried something in her claws, part of an old satellite, broken metal and wires. She dropped it at his feet and stared at him, waiting. Ethan understood. She wanted him to build, to plan, to dream beyond the next hunt. Using broken tech and stolen parts from dead hunters, Ethan made a crude beacon, a distress signal, hidden deep under a pile of rocks so no slaver could trace it. If the right people heard it, maybe a human rescue team would come, maybe not, but hope was worth risking. She watched him work for hours, silent but near. Once, she touched the blinking light gently, eyes wide at the tiny human magic. He smiled at her awe and whispered, "One day, you'll see my world too. No more cages, no more hunters, just us, free." She tilted her head, then did something she never had before. She leaned close and touched his lips softly with her forehead. To her kind, it was a promise deeper than any word. But the snow never sleeps. One night, as they lay together near the fire, a soft sound woke Ethan. A whisper of boots on snow, a broken branch. He sat up fast. She was already on her feet, claws out, eyes blazing blue in the FIRELIGHT. Through a small crack in the stone wall, Ethan saw them, not slavers this time, but something worse, mercenaries, in black armor, with silent guns and night goggles, professionals, sent by someone with deep pockets and a deeper fear, the free ghost queen in the snow. They did not yell or bark commands. They moved like shadows, planning to choke the life out of her and drag Ethan back in chains as bait. She turned to Ethan, growled softly a question, "Fight or run?" He shook his head. Not this time. Running only invited more chains tomorrow. He grabbed the blaster, checked the weak power cell, then touched her arm. "We end it tonight." Her answer was a smile, a real one, fangs showing, eyes burning like stars. The first merc stepped through the entrance, cracked a slow. She pounced. From the shadows, silent as the storm, claws slicing his neck before he could scream. Gunfire shattered the mountain quiet. Bullets tore stone and furs. Ethan ducked behind a rock, firing blind, trusting her roars to guide him. Her shape moved between muzzle flashes, a ghost tearing armored men apart one by one. One merc spotted Ethan, raised a shotgun. Ethan fired. First, the blue bolt punching through the man's visor, dropping him like a broken doll. The last merc grabbed a grenade, desperate. He pulled the pin too late. She was on him, claws sinking into his chest, ripping the weapon away and tossing it far into the trees where it boomed harmlessly. Silence returned, broken only by heavy breaths and snow falling from the rocks above. The fire burned low but warm. She stood in the doorway, chest heaving, blood dripping from her claws. She turned to him slowly, bathed in moonlight and dying embers. A goddess of fang and fury who had fought hell to guard her only treasure. Ethan walked to her, dropping the empty blaster. His knees shook, but he did not fall. He placed his hand on her cheek, feeling the warm blood, the soft skin beneath the warrior mask. "No more running," he whispered. "We stand here. They'll never take you, never take me, not while we breathe." She pressed her forehead to his, her purr rumbling through his bones like a promise. Outside, the snow felt gentle and quiet. Inside the cave, a human and an alien girl lay beside the fire, tangled together, keeping the cold and the darkness away from each other's hearts. In this savage, frozen world, she guarded him like treasure, and he, the lost human in the snow, guarded her freedom with every beat of his fragile human heart.